Greetings, students. So welcome to our study session video for exam number 2, Life Management. So we're covering chapters 6 through 10. So you should go ahead and get out your study guide and follow along with me to make sure that you have the correct information for the exam. Okay, we're starting off with chapter 6. Taking tests demonstrates what? What you have learned in class. What should you do when preparing to read? Figure out how much you have to read and how long it will take you to read that, right? In order to get ready or prepare to read. Examples of annotating. So examples of annotating would be jotting down quick notes, inserting your own examples because they make sense to you, drawing symbols. Again, the symbols make sense to you. Right? Highlighting key terms would not be an example of annotating. Annotating is really abbreviating and making something make sense to you in your own words. What does annotating require you to do? To process information more carefully than if you just highlighted or underlined the information. When reading, what should you underline or highlight? The main ideas and key concepts. Main ideas, key concepts. What helps you to learn and remember material? Applying what you read to your own life, right? That's really important, applying what you read to your own life. How can you increase the speed at which you read? Use your finger as a cue on the paper as you read. So you know how it is when you have a paragraph or a page or a book you're reading, and you're reading line after line, sometimes you miss your place, you lose your place. So you can be more efficient and have faster speed if you use your finger to guide you. Nothing wrong with that. What does it mean to recite? You state the information you've learned out loud if you're alone, or in your head if there's people around you. Skimming. Skimming is not an effective strategy for deep understanding. Skimming is when we quickly go through material, kind of skipping words sometimes, and it is not an effective strategy for deep understanding of any material. Chapter 7, one more. Reading at work. Reading is a core activity in many jobs. So whether you have to read emails from your employer or newsletters that your company is putting out or publications your company is putting out, reading at work. Chapter 7, how to prepare to take notes in class. So the first thing you want to do is review the course syllabus before class. So get an idea of what the instructor is going to be talking about today by looking at the course syllabus. Paraphrase. Paraphrase is to restate information in your own words. Restate information in your own words. A good place to read and take notes. An example would be at a desk in your room with the door closed. So again, having privacy, you're at a desk, something that's structured, you're seated and comfortable. Review your notes within how long after writing them down or taking your notes? Within a day. 1 day, within a day. A note studying technique for visual learners is called mapping. Remember, visual learners like to see things visually. So if we actually map information, and there's some examples in your textbook, for a visual learner, this makes sense and it's key for them to learn. Excuse me. Taking handwritten notes. When we take handwritten notes, we should only use one side of the page, not both sides. Only use one side of the page of paper, not both. Excuse me. Paraphrasing while taking notes helps you to do what? Understand the ideas being discussed more fully. Pardon me. Understand the ideas being discussed more fully. Using your own symbols and abbreviations in note-taking, you can use as long as they have meaning to you. So you can use your own symbols and your own abbreviations in your note-taking as long as when you go back to look at them, you understand what they mean. I have a couple different symbols that I use that I know what they are. And they save so much time when I'm trying to get through information. So again, they just have to have meaning for you. Note-taking for online classes versus traditional classes. Use the same note-taking strategies for both. Whether it's online or in person, same strategy. Chapter 8, sensory memory. Last only a split second. So how long does your sensory memory last? Only a split second. Retrieving. You use this aspect of memory when you recall information, right? You're gonna, retrieve, like when you retrieve a ball, when someone throws a ball and you go retrieve it, you go get it. So we retrieve information from our memory when we recall the information. Long-term memory storage seems limitless. Limitless. Most productive way to learn new material, what we should do is space out your studying across multiple days and study in blocks of time. Space out your studying across multiple days and study in blocks of time. In other words, excuse me, we don't want to cram the information into a short time frame. Creating an agenda. We can create an agenda and use it to keep a group focused on particular topics at every meeting. So when we go into meetings, we want to have an agenda as an outline of what we're going to cover. And so we want to use an agenda to keep a group that we're in focused on particular topics at each of your meetings. Acronym. What is an acronym? An acronym. To make an acronym, we create a word from the first letter of each word that you want to remember. Create a word from the first letter of each word that you want to remember. A lifelong learner is someone who keeps building his or her knowledge and skills long after graduating from college. That's a lifelong learner. I definitely consider myself to be a lifelong learner. I love being a student. I love learning. And so that's a lifelong learner. Sensory memory and active listening. You use your sensory memory when you actively listen to an instructor deliver a lecture. You use your sensory memory when you actively listen to an instructor deliver a lecture. The human brain and wear and tear. The human brain can forget information with normal wear and tear due to aging. Our brain definitely changes as we age. And so with that aging process comes this forgetfulness, losing some information. Teaching information and memory. You are more likely to remember information if you spend time teaching it to others. It reinforces it. When you have to be the teacher, it reinforces what you're learning. So you are more likely to remember information if you spend time teaching it to others. Lifelong learning and your career. Lifelong learning in your career makes you more marketable if you decide to look for a new job or ask for a raise. When you can show your employer that you have been keeping up with your field, by reading and by learning new techniques or new things that are going on within whatever type of business you're in, it makes you more valuable or marketable. Chapter 9, what is a cumulative exam? Cumulative exam means that it covers all of the information or material you've learned so far in the course. Right? So for instance, in our life management course, we do not have a cumulative exam because each exam that we take covers a specified number of chapters instead of covering everything from chapter 1. Right? But that is what cumulative means. Your routine before an exam. Routine before an exam. During the week leading up to an exam, you should resist the urge to change your routine. So keep your routine the same because you should have been studying gradually, again, every time we learn a new chapter and new information, and so we shouldn't be cramming. So keep your routine the same. Test anxiety. What is test anxiety? Nervousness or worry before or during an exam. A lot of students have test anxiety. Nervousness or worry before or during an exam. What do you do when you experience test anxiety? One of the good things that we can really do is to tense and relax our muscles. Tense and relax your muscles. It's giving you something to focus on, almost like a stress ball. When you have a stress ball, that's kind of what you're doing, right? You're tensing and then you're relaxing, right? And it kind of relieves some of that stress. How to reframe your thoughts. So we understand the word reframe means to change, right? So to take what you're currently thinking and change it to something else. How to reframe your thoughts. So for example, excuse me. Excuse me. Pardon me. If you were about to take a math exam and you sit down in front of the test and look at it and you say in your head, I'm no good at math, right? The way to reframe your thinking is instead of saying, I'm no good at math, say to yourself, I've studied this material and I can figure it out. So remind yourself that you did put in the study time. Now, if you didn't, that's on you, right? But if you did put in the study time, then remind yourself, okay, maybe math is not my best subject. However, I studied the information. I'm going to take my time, follow what I learned, and I'll figure it out. What should you do when taking a test? When you take a test, you should use all of the time provided. Use all of the time provided. So again, if you finish early, you should then go back to the beginning of your test and make sure, did I skip any questions? Did I circle any that I was going to come back to later? Were there a couple I was unsure of and I want to look at them again? So use all that valuable time. How to answer multiple choice questions. So kind of a hint for multiple choice questions is you should cross out all the wrong answers. So kind of start with process of elimination. So if there's 4 choices and you look and you go, well, I know this one and this one are definitely not correct. Now you're left with 2 choices. So you've reduced the amount of error you might have. What do we do about true-false questions? In a true-false question, when we see unconditional language, such as the word all, often that indicates a false statement. Not all the time, but often. So if the true-false says something like, all students are bad at math, it's cluing us into maybe that's a false statement because it's saying all. Okay? Test taking with integrity. What does that mean? Test taking with integrity. It means that you refrain from cheating. Refrain means you don't do it. So integrity means we have honor. Right? We are being trustworthy. We have honor in the work we're doing. We're not looking at our neighbor's paper. We didn't cheat in some way. So that's what it means to have integrity. Work and test taking, work and test taking. The preparation and thinking skills needed to respond to questions at work are the same skills you use to answer questions correctly on college test. Chapter 10, what should you do when you cite information, right? Cite information. So we're talking about preparing papers or presentations. When we cite or reference information, that means we should acknowledge that we are including someone else's ideas in our paper or presentation. Acknowledge that we're including someone else's ideas in our paper or presentation. We are giving them credit. What does an outline do for you? So creating an outline for your papers, what does that do? Number one, it helps you to organize your ideas before you start writing. Number two, it presents the structure of your entire paper. Presents the structure of your entire paper. Number three, ensures that you have all the required components to complete the assignment. Ensures that you have all the required components to complete the assignment. What happens when you create an outline? Students who create an outline before writing produce higher quality papers than students who do not create an outline. Produce higher quality papers. What should you do after your first draft of writing a paper? As we start to edit our paper or finalize our paper, we should refer to the MLA or excuse me, APA style guides. We should refer to the MLA or APA style guides. Remember, in this class, we use APA format. And so when we've written that paper and now we want to go ahead and finalize it, we need to make sure that we're using the correct format. And we find the format in the style guide for either APA or MLA. Plagiarism, what is it? When one person uses another person's words or ideas and presents them as your own. When you use someone else's words or ideas and present them as your own, in other words, you do not cite or reference, then that is plagiarism. You are stealing someone else's work. When to use quotation marks? When including another person's exact words in your paper, right? It's to indicate to the reader that these words are not your own. We use quotation marks at the beginning and the end of somebody else's words, and we cite. Visual aids work best in a presentation when they convey main ideas and are not complex. So make your visual aids simple. So they work best when they convey main ideas and are not complex. Resources are available where? Well, resources are typically available in libraries. However, this is interesting. You do not need to physically be present in a library to take advantage of its resources. The reason is you can access resources online. So if you're a student at a college, you can use your student access information to be at home, accessing the college library, accessing resources. So you do not need to be physically in the library to get, take advantage of all of the different either books or catalogs or journals that they have. Is plagiarism intentional or unintentional? Well, it can be both, really. What you need to remember is plagiarism is not always intentional. Excuse me. Sometimes we inadvertently use somebody else's idea without giving them credit for it. So in other words, maybe we weren't intentional about it. However, it's still considered plagiarism. That's why we have to educate ourselves about what does it mean to plagiarize. And so plagiarism is not always intentional. Okay? However, again, it is still wrong. Expressing your ideas and your employment. What's the correlation between expressing your ideas and your employment? When you know how to express your ideas effectively, you can make a meaningful contribution to your company or organization. When you know how to express your ideas effectively, you can make a meaningful contribution to your company or organization. All right, that is it. So again, exam number 2 will cover chapters 6 through 10.